Today on Rappler, boxing promoter Bob Arum asks Nevada's Attorney General to investigate Manny Pacquiao's controversial loss to Timothy Bradley. Pacquiao says he wants a rematch with Bradley by November. And Defense Secretary Laila De Lima is nominated for the post of Chief Justice. Hello, I'm Chai Hofilenia, sitting in for Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Halfway through his term, President Benigno Aquino III scores well on fighting corruption, criminality, and equal enforcement of the law, but needs to work overtime to bring down inflation, poverty, and population growth. In its May 20 to 26, 2012 survey, Pulse Asia says Aquino scores a 58% approval rating for fighting corruption, 56% for fighting criminality, and 52% for enforcing the law equally on all citizens. The satisfaction levels for economic-related issues are much lower. 40% of respondents disapprove of the Aquino government's performance in controlling inflation, followed by 35% who want more results in the fight against poverty, and 26% who want the government to control the rapid population growth. The president's performance-related ratings are on a gradual decline since October 2010. He started off with a high 79% approval rating, which dropped to 67% in May 2012. The impeachment trial of convicted Chief Justice Renato Corona had just resumed at the time the survey was conducted. A day after Manny Pacquiao's controversial loss to Timothy Bradley, more questions are being raised about the split decision. Boxing promoter Bob Arum tells Yahoo Sports he wants Nevada's Attorney General to investigate the issue. Two judges, Dwayne Ford and C.J. Ross, scored in favor of Bradley. Judge Jerry Ross scored in favor of Pacquiao. Arum says, quote, "I want to investigate whether there was any undue influence, whether the Nevada Athletic Commission gave any particular instruction. If this was a subjective view that each of the judges honestly held, okay, I would still disagree, but then we're off the hook in terms of conspiracy." Arum adds, quote, "An event everybody saw as so one-sided, one way, all three judges saw as a close fight. It strains credulity." Boxing judge Dwayne Ford tells Yahoo Sports the criticisms are coming from people who don't know the way fights are judged. He says he gave an honest opinion, explaining that what happens in one round doesn't carry over to the next round. He also says Bradley's hard body shots hurt Pacquiao in terms of scoring. Ford adds, quote, "Bradley did an excellent job standing his ground as a boxer." Defending his decision, Ford insists it was a close fight in his mind that could have gone either way. Arum tells Sports Illustrated and ESPN he went over to Bradley before the decision and Bradley said, quote, "I tried hard but I couldn't beat the guy." Arum adds, quote, "Something like this is so outlandish, it's a death knell for the sport." Golden Boy Promotions President Oscar De La Hoya, a 10-time world champion and former opponent of Pacquiao, says on Twitter, quote, "Bradley should have given the belt and announced victory to Pacquiao right after the decision." CompuBox, a boxing scoring system, publishes its report on the Pacquiao-Bradley match. CompuBox says Pacquiao outlanded Bradley 253 to 159 in total punches, outjabbed Bradley 63 to 51, and left the American boxer behind 190 to 108 in power shots. Co-founder and president of CompuBox, Bob Canobio, says in his Twitter account, Pacquiao outlanded Bradley in 10 of 12 rounds. The Philippine Star reports Coach Freddie Roach wants an investigation to be conducted, if only to uphold the integrity of boxing. Sports analysts go as far as connecting betting trends before the game to the controversial decision. Professional poker player Haralabos Vulgaris notes on Twitter there was a late surge of bets on Bradley. ESPN columnist Bill Simmons picks up Haralabos' thread and says, "Late money on this boxing match? Lots of late money on Bradley." He adds in another tweet, quote, "So disgusted right now. Now we know why the odds dropped all week." Forbes.com says the official scoring was inconsistent with other perspectives. Sports analysts from Yahoo Sports, Associated Press, Las Vegas Review-Journal, ESPN, and HBO all scored the fight in favor of Pacquiao. Yahoo Sports columnist Dan Wetzel adds a sarcastic twist to the discussion. Quote, "Blame here has to fall on Pacquiao's strategy of punching Bradley more often and harder." And the final word comes from late-night host Jimmy Kimmel. He says former American Idol judge Paula Abdul would have done a better job judging the fight. Despite the controversial loss, Manny Pacquiao is still the winner money-wise. Forbes magazine reports Pacquiao takes home at least $26 million from his fight against Timothy Bradley. The figure means he earns more than any other athlete in the world, except for another boxer, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Manny Pacquiao fans still feel the disappointment of his loss, but his wife Jinky says it has a deeper, more spiritual context. In a television interview, Jinky says the loss was part of God's will. TV cameras showed her crying after the announcement of the fight's result. Social media was abuzz with celebrities expressing support for Pacquiao. Pop star Miley Cyrus expresses her support in a tweet, quote, "Manny Pacquiao is still the world's best boxer." It trended #1 on Twitter. Singer Justin Timberlake cannot believe the decision and says it must have been read wrong. While rock singer Chris Daughtry says Bradley did not deserve the win. Former NBA slam dunk champ Vince Carter cites CompuBox scores and says the stats say one thing, the judges another. Retired NBA star Shaquille O'Neal expresses his disapproval with colorful language, while rapper Busta Rhymes even urges Bradley to give his belt to the 8th Division world champion. Writer Paulo Coelho says defeat never comes to any fighter until he loses his enthusiasm and calls Pacquiao a winner. Even Floyd Mayweather Sr., a Pacquiao critic, says Pac-Man should have won. He says, quote, "Bradley came back in the later rounds, but in all the early rounds, Pacquiao dominated the fight." In the Philippines, megastar Sharon Cuneta says for her, Manny won. International singer Lea Salonga praises Pacquiao for handling the defeat with grace. Pacquiao's colleagues, Isabela Representative Georgidi Agabao and Zamboanga City Representative Maria Isabel Climaco, say they support him if he pursues a rematch. But Valenzuela Representative Magtanggol Gunigundo says it's time for Pacquiao to assess things. He adds, quote, "Pride should give way to a rational analysis on his mental and physical fitness." Former Senator Rene Saguisag wants Pacquiao to choose between boxing and politics. He says, quote, "If he wants a rematch, he should focus on it and resign pronto as congressman." He also says, quote, "Manny should quit while some in the audience are still applauding." Pacquiao and Bradley's contract provide for a rematch clause, and the boxer congressman says he wants it. He hints of a knockout victory, saying, quote, "I don't want to finish the whole 12 rounds. Inevitably, memes spread online poking fun at Bradley's victory. Among the first to spread online is Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago shouting her infamous "wah" on the split decision. Some hit Bradley's controversial win, while others feature actress Claudine Barreto, who was recently involved in a scuffle at the NAIA, exacting revenge for Pacquiao. One of the latest to surface is Miami Heat's Big Three telling Bradley that unlike him, their victory was clean. It was a big sports Sunday with the Pacquiao-Bradley fight as the highlight. The Miami Heat, led by MVP LeBron James, captures the Eastern Conference title in a Game 7 victory over the Boston Celtics. They will face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. Maria Sharapova becomes the 10th woman in tennis history to win all 4 Grand Slam titles after defeating Sara Errani of Italy in the French Open final. And lastly, rain halts the French Open final between Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic Sunday. The match resumes Monday with Nadal beating Djokovic. Nadal becomes the first man to win 7 French Open titles. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad tells Filipinos on the eve of Independence Day to beware of, quote, "too much democracy." In a lecture at the University of Santo Tomas, Mahathir praises democracy as, quote, "the best system of governance ever devised by man." But he says democracy works only when people understand the limitations. Malaysia's longest-serving prime minister cites advances in technology that often lead to invasions of privacy. During the lecture,
you start publishing then you are going to cause a lot of problem for a lot of people.
So where do
you have to respect the privacy of people.
where do we draw the line?
Well, that's up to you to decide.
Should government punish people who
When you create problem by, say, revealing people's official secrets, then I think something has to be done about it.
During the lecture, Mahathir also stresses the need for incorruptible leaders and appropriate strategies to lift the country's economy. UST conferred the title Honorary Professor on Mahathir. Justice Secretary Laila de Lima is nominated to replace ousted Chief Justice Renato Corona, making her the third member of President Aquino's cabinet to be recommended for the post. Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption founder Dante Jimenez, who nominated de Lima, says, quote, "She is the most qualified with her competence, diligence, integrity, and independence." He adds, de Lima has proven she can be independent, citing her stint as chairman of the Commission on Human Rights under the administration of former President Gloria Arroyo. De Lima then described Arroyo's human rights record as, quote, "dismal." Jimenez says, quote, "If appointed Chief Justice, she will perform the same kind of independence." De Lima has yet to decide if she will accept the nomination or not. In a text message to Rappler, she says, quote, "I don't know yet. We'll discuss first with the President. My father's advice, heed the President's command." Rappler is an advocate of institutional, sustainable reform. Starting today, we bring you stories on the process of choosing the next Chief Justice and how you can help shape the process. This report from Purple Romero.
It took 188 congressmen and 23 senators to convict a Chief Justice, but it will only take 8 people to say who should be the next one. The Judicial and Bar Council has a daunting task, not only of choosing the best and the brightest, but also of insulating the judiciary from politics. What is unique about the JBC as a mechanism of selecting the Chief Justice?
The composition of the JBC itself. The regular members are composed of professionals, non-politicians, and also the ex officio chairman is not a politician. The incumbent Chief Justice acts as the ex officio chairman of the JBC.
Representatives from the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, the private sector, the academe, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Department of Justice sit in the JBC. One of its members is also a retired Supreme Court Justice. The body is chaired by the Chief Justice. During the Marcos regime, the setup was vulnerable to presidential influence. The vision behind the JBC is to strengthen the integrity of the selection process. But it is also packed with presidential appointees like LaSalle Law Professor Jose Mejia and IBP Officer Milagros Fernan Cayosa. Justice Secretary Laila de Lima is an ally of President Benigno Aquino III, but has already inhibited. Representative Nial Tupas is a party within the Liberal Party, and Senator Francis Escudero is the President's friend. We are looking for an independent Chief Justice. But is the body tasked to choose him independent? Purple Romero, Rappler.
Retired Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato Corona says dismissed Chief Justice Renato Corona leaves his successor a judiciary that is in disarray and with low morale. Puno laments, quote, "The judiciary is now in disarray. Some are disappointed, some are confused, some appear to be in a spiritual slump for they perceive a severely wounded judiciary." Puno says it is at a low point and will recover with God's help. United Nationalist Alliance announces its senatorial lineup for 2012, which includes Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III and Juan Miguel Zubiri. The announcement comes after a meeting led by Vice President Jejomar Binay, former President Joseph Estrada, and Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile.
If the decision of Senator Coco is to leave,
what can we do?
what can we do? Di ba? What can we do? What can the party do? What can the alliance do? We are dealing here with two political leaders. One a sitting senator, the other one a former senator who resigned from his office. These are not local politicians. So we are being very careful about the handling of these two potential re-electionists.
Senator Coco Pimentel had earlier threatened to bolt Una if the slate will include his rival Juan Miguel Zubiri. Pimentel accuses Zubiri of depriving him his time in the Senate. Pimentel and Zubiri were rivals for the last slot in the Senate during the 2007 elections. The decision to include both senators does not sit well with Pimentel. He says he will decide whether to stay with Una in 2 weeks. He says he has already forgiven Zubiri, but does not see the need to reward him by being in the same slate with him. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 5, in his latest book, The Price of Inequality, Columbia professor and Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz examines the causes of income inequality and reaches startling conclusions, including that America is, quote, no longer the land of opportunity and the American dream is a myth. He notes if Americans are born poor, they're overwhelmingly likely to stay poor. At number 8, Prince Philip, the husband of Britain's Queen Elizabeth II, hogs the spotlight a week after the nation celebrated the Queen's Jubilee. His unwavering devotion to duty endears him to the nation. A naval officer, the Duke of Edinburgh, is known for his no-nonsense approach and often politically incorrect, off-the-cuff remarks. He missed some of the Jubilee festivities due to a gallbladder infection, but not the Queen's affection. They have been married since 1947. And at number 9, changing and choosing passwords and passcode security remains a popular topic after 6 million LinkedIn passwords were discovered to have been leaked. IT security consultant Mark Burnett compiles a list of 10 of top 500 worst or most common passwords. The list includes lazy combination of passwords including Jennifer and Superman. That's Rappler's Newscast for today, Monday, June 11, 2012. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter. I'm Chai Hofelenia, and as we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.
To the winner by split decision. And no